Marco,
Sean,
I'm way ahead of you.
I know we just talked about that in the other recording. You are already in Europe,
So
and
uh,
I have to ask you all the time, where are you now? Where are you now?
that's
Can you
a
hear me now?
it's top secret. It's top secret where I am. But I'm
Don't
closer to London. I'll say that.
don't keep it a secret. Come on,
All right, no,
tell me.
I'm in Spain for another conference, an AppSec conference called OWASP, and yeah, so I'm making my way to London for InfoSecurity Europe the first week of June, and we get to see our good friends from ThreatLocker, Rob Allen again.
It's right
Yes,
here.
indeed. Yes, indeed. That's a very long-winded way of getting to London, Sean,
I know it was a slight
via
detour.
Spain.
Slight detour.
Yeah,
Bit
it's
of,
the
bit
worst
of a
places you
holiday.
can be.
I like to make Marco jealous, so I head off on trips that he doesn't get to go to.
There you
Oh,
go. There you go. Well, I'm gonna get straight to London from LA, and I'm excited for this. The last time I hang out with Rob was actually in San Francisco, and that's kind of like our tour, right? ITSP Magazine on tour, which is RSA, InfoSec, and OWASP, of course. You are there, but doesn't count because I'm not there, so it's not
That's
as
right.
cool,
no.
right? Right,
Does that
Rob?
mean the
You know what
pizza
I'm
you
talking
guys
No,
had
definitely not.
without me
Don't count
doesn't
at all.
count?
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know why they don't just cancel it, to be honest, Marco.
Well, you know that's Sean passion right there. It's is that OPSEC world,
I'm an
and
engineer.
he's weird like that, so
I
I
am
let him
weird.
have fun with it.
Like that and many other ways too.
Yeah,
But
and then we will get back to Las Vegas for Black Hat, where I'm sure we will talk to you guys again. But why we're here today is to talk about InfoSecurity in London, and there is definitely excitement. It's one of the major events in Europe, and ThreatLocker is going to be there. It doesn't matter how you pronounce it. You guys are going to be there, and we are excited to get to talk to you now, and then get to talk with the folks on the floor at your booth. And really, Rob, you've been with us a few times, so we know who you are pretty well. There may be people right now that don't know who you are listening.
it's
So
not
who is
possible.
Rob?
It's not possible.
Who's Rob? So Rob is the Chief Product Officer at ThreatLocker, also occasional Chief Podcast Officer, as we can now see, sometimes Chief Pineapple Officer. Don't even go there. Please don't ask about that because it's a very long and sad story. But yeah, I basically help make the cool things happen.
And that's important. You're the fixer, right?
The creator and the fixer.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say creator now. There are others who may take that particular title, but yeah, I try and turn dreams into reality.
There you go. And the dream is to make zero trust possible in the most simplest way possible, right?
Absolutely a good way to describe it. I mean, the other way to describe it is to help people sleep at night. Genuinely, that is probably the biggest and best feedback that I get from speaking to customers at events like InfoSec, is when somebody says to me, "You help me sleep better at night." There is no greater compliment that we could get. So yeah, another way of
Your
looking at
dream
it
is to
is
help others dream.
making zero trust possible. But yeah, well, absolutely, yes. It involves making zero trust possible and attainable and achievable. But as I said, fundamentally, it's about helping people sleep at night knowing their environments are secured.
Yeah. So I want to take this opportunity because we kind of start touching on that when we were sitting on those comfortable couch in San Francisco, about how do you approach different geographic market? Is the conversation different depending on where you are in the world, and how is uh, let's just put it there. Why is it important for ThreatLocker and you guys to be on location as much as you can all over the world, in particular, in this case, Europe?
Well, I suppose in general, the problem is the same everywhere. The problem is universal. It's no different for organizations in the EU or EMEA than it is for organizations in the US. Conversations sometimes are slightly different. I mean, there's different concerns, things like, GDPR sort of stuff in Europe isn't really so much of a thing here. But I mean, again, specific examples, like I would imagine that companies in the UK, for example, at the moment are paying quite a lot of attention to the problem of ransomware, because 3 massive retail organizations have been hit over the last couple of weeks. I mean, I saw an article today that one of them was going to cost over $400 million to the organization in question. Now, that's, if that isn't
Is
something
that the same one that claimed human error?
While on the one hand, I do want to get into specifics, because $402 million is a really big number, and
Right.
it gets attention. But on the other hand, I don't really want to get into specifics, because I
we
don't
won't.
know. I don't think they know what happened specifically yet. But again, the fact of the matter is, events like that, and it is a sad fact of cybersecurity life, is that organizations realistically, in a lot of cases, don't pay attention unless something bad has happened. And it very often takes something really big, like these recent attacks, to basically get people's attention and have them realize, hang on, if a massive organization like this can be brought to their knees by a ransomware attack, what can it do to my organization? I mean, I had an interesting conversation with an organization here in the US recently, and they basically said, look, we don't have any money, but realistically, what's going to have to happen is we're going to have an incident, we're going to get hit, and then all of a sudden people will pay attention and spend the required money. Now, as I said, the ideal scenario in your ideal situation is that doesn't need to be the case. And that's part of the reason why we attend events like InfoSec, to talk to people, to say, well, look, there are ways you can protect yourself. There are other, potentially better ways you can protect yourself. So you don't have to be an example or a bad example of what you shouldn't do. You could be a very good example of what you can and should do.
Yeah, to be a little bit more proactive than reactive, which again, we always go there. Like, first lock everything and then decide what window you wanna you're actually using and you want to keep open, right?
Yeah, it's different approaches to the same problem. As I said, the problem is universal. The solutions are not necessarily universal. I mean, if everybody did the same thing, and realistically, a lot of products do the same thing in slightly different ways. But the beauty about the approach that we take is it is very different. It is very unique. It is proactive rather than reactive. And I know which I prefer.
Let me ask you something. I mean, I like to talk a very global level when it comes to like cyber war, cyber attack, and how it affects the relationship between states and so forth. And actually, at InfoSecurity, there is going to be a good deal of conversation on geopolitics and how cybersecurity affect that. So I'm really looking forward to that. But regulation. In your case, do you see that sometimes there is stronger drivers to be proactive because you actually have a market that forces you to do that, or certain regulation? I don't know. I'm thinking maybe Australia and Europe being a little bit more pushy, let's say, in that direction, instead of waiting for stuff to happen.
Interesting fact, our second biggest, and it kind of varies between the UK and Australia. Australia is our second biggest market. Now, we never really had a presence in Australia. Now, we do have an office there. We've got staff. We've got, boots on the ground. But for probably 4 or 5 years, it was still our second biggest market, despite the fact that we didn't at that stage have any infrastructure or staff or anything else in the country. Now, the reason for that was primarily down to Australia having a piece of, I don't know if it's legislation per se, but a set of rules, which is called the Essential 8. And the Essential 8, basically, if we'd have drafted a document to say, this is all the things that you should do because we can do all the things in ThreatLocker, it probably would have come out pretty similarly to the Essential 8. So things like, blocking untrusted applications, all that kind of stuff is there in the Essential 8. Now, as I said, I would pretty much, that is the reason that is our second biggest market at this stage. So from our perspective, it's absolutely fantastic that they have strong legislation that basically tells people exactly what they should be doing. and if they get breached, fines them appropriately if they don't do the things that the legislation said they should do. So there's lots of different examples like that. I mean, in fairness, even here in the US, there was an executive order, I think it was back in 2021, mandating zero trust for anything to do with the federal government. Again, that was great because it got attention on zero trust. It basically, well, hang on a second, if the federal government is, mandated to implement zero trust, maybe we should too. So absolutely, it greatly helps. And as I said, there's different variations on it in the EU, for example, with things like DORA. Obviously mentioned GDPR. I mean, there's legislation pretty much everywhere that in various shapes and guises does suggest to people that they should be doing it as something else and something different.
So by reflecting on that, does it even change the conversation that you do have at the booth when you're on location, the way that you talk to people, but not just because you drive the conversation in a different way, but because it's driven by the question that you get from your customers. So give me some example there, maybe. I mean, what you expect in London.
A great example in London would be Cyber Essentials. So the UK have a set of, what you should do, which is Cyber Essentials. Now, again, it's not dissimilar to the Essential 8 in the US, in Australia, insofar as they've tried to narrow it down. They've tried to give people actionable steps. These are the things that you should do. And basically, businesses and organizations can get Cyber Essentials certified. It's a good thing to be if you're a business. So again, that kind of thing will drive a lot of the conversations that we'll have at the likes of InfoSec. So it'll be, well, look, how can you guys help us get Cyber Essentials? So yeah, it is, the conversations are slightly different from region to region, but fundamentally they're basically the same. The thrust is the same, which is, how do I do this better?
Do you find, Rob, that different markets have higher numbers of analysts and endpoint managers looking after security versus MSPs stepping in to kind of support a wider group of organizations, maybe more SMEs, small medium enterprise versus large enterprise in different markets? Anything there that also shifts how the conversation looks when you're meeting folks?
Not really. I mean, the typical size of customers, I mean, some of our biggest customers are in the EMEA region. Similarly, Australia, actually. So again, I can think of 2 or 3 off the top of my head that are quite frankly enormous in that part of the world. So the type of customer realistically doesn't change. I mean, it's not as if we sort of deal with a particular vertical or it's just one particular type of organization. I mean, we have everything from, banking to, tourism to schools to hospitals. I mean, again, you could probably say that certain verticals may be more targeted in different parts of the world. I mean, hospitals seem to be a particularly targeted vertical in this part of the world. Maybe less so in others, although the attack on the Irish Health Service back in 2021 would probably suggest otherwise, that they'll basically go after hospitals wherever they can. So no, I don't think there's anything specific from that perspective. I mean, look, we deal with large enterprises all over the world. We deal with, small businesses through MSPs all over the world. I mean, the model realistically doesn't change because, as I said, the problem doesn't change.
Yeah, and talking about that, getting to meet you guys in person, either you have your big event every year, which is growing like crazy, and we were there. Glad that we were. People are now listening because they're gonna follow our coverage of InfoSecurity Europe, and they say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be at Excel. I'm gonna go talk to these guys. Never heard of them. I'm sure somebody hasn't. How would you suggest them to come to the booth and interact with the team and get the best out of it?
So first of all, I suppose we should really tell them where to go, which is to booth D90. So come to booth D90. We have a team of our guys who will be there, headed, I believe, by Mantis, owner of the second best beard in ThreatLocker. And I want to be very clear about this. The second best beard in ThreatLocker is owned by Mantis. So yeah, come talk to Mantis and the rest of the ThreatLocker team.
We will actually talk to Mantis
Yes.
on location.
And make sure you tell him that is a really good beard, but it is not the best beard in ThreatLocker. To be absolutely clear.
I'm taking a note right here. That's how I'm going to start a conversation.
Fantastic. Sure. Excellent. But yeah, no, come talk to the guys. They are a fantastic team in EMEA. Humble brag, built largely by yours truly when I was based in that part of the world. But yeah, come talk to the guys. They're more than open. They're very willing to have conversations. They want to listen. They want to hear problems. They want existing customers come talk to us as well. I mean, that is one of the biggest benefits of these events from our perspective, is not only to spread the word to new prospects or customers, it's also our new prospects. It's also to speak to existing customers, get their feedback. How has their experience been? Is there anything we can do any better? Is everything okay? So whether it's customers, prospects, if you've heard of us, if you've never heard of us, if you can't get us out of your head, either way, come talk to the team, and they will be delighted to have a conversation.
So I can all note that the team is really fun and really cool and knowledgeable. And Marco mentioned your conference.
Sorry, Sean, that's me. What about the rest of the team?
Exactly. Another humble brag there. There we go. Well, you are definitely a lot of fun.
They're the second best in being that.
No, absolutely they are. Absolutely they are.
But so, and I was also going to say that when we got a chance to speak to a lot of customers at your event, the feedback from them was overwhelmingly positive and complimentary as well. So my question to you is in response or regards to new folks who want to connect with the ThreatLocker team. Is there one or two things that they might be experiencing in their environment now that says you're ripe for a ThreatLocker conversation? Any signs in their logs or the way their team's feeling or whatever?
There's so many different things. I mean, it's difficult to give one. It's difficult to give 10 different examples. I mean, if you're sitting at a computer right now and you can run AnyDesk on that computer, that's a problem. If you're sitting at a computer and you can run an IP scanner and nobody picks up the phone to ring you to say, hey, why are you trying to run an IP scanner? That's a problem. If you clear the event logs in your machine and nobody's on top of that immediately, or and these are just obvious things that you know about. What about all the things that you don't know about that are happening in the background? You know what I mean? Oh, you're in a coffee shop and there's been a connection on port 3389. Did you know about that? Probably not. Is it a problem? Probably. So there's a million different things. But as I said, the very basics are things like, as I said, being able to run software like AnyDesk or any of the other dozens of remote access tools or data exfiltration tools, or can you run WinZip and WinRAR? I mean, again, these are not bad applications. These are not things that your typical AV or EDR is going to stop. It's just WinRAR, but can it be used for data exfiltration? Absolutely. Can it be used for data encryption? 100%. Can it delete data? Yes, it can. Putty is another great example. Putty is a great tool. Lots of people use it. It's really cool. But it can also be used for data exfiltration. We've seen it used for data exfiltration. So again, if you can run all of these things on your machines, then realistically an attacker can run all of these things on your machines as well. And that's a problem. Yeah. So there's the things you can see, there's the things you can't see. But again, showing you or giving you visibility to the things that you can't see is part of what ThreatLocker does so well.
And when you say putty, you mean putty.
Say it properly, Marco. Say it properly.
Putty?
No.
What is that?
Putti.
Putti.
There we go.
That's your Italian, not me.
Well, technically it's Cristiano's Italian, who's another member of our team over there, but Putti.
Before or later, as we said, sometimes for fun, we'll have to do a podcast with them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Italian style.
I have to admit, I am worried because the world might just end from the absolute coolness. But having you and Cristiano do your thing together, I mean, the hands alone would just be.
We'll need a bigger screen.
Yeah.
We're definitely, these small little screens aren't going to work because we're going to have to go widescreen, hands, everything, everywhere. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, or in person, that will be even
That would be even better. That
And
would be even better.
talking about that, I'm always excited to go to London. I heard some people are not that crazy about that town, but I do like it quite a bit.
Who would
I
not
don't
be
know.
that
Never-
crazy about London? London's a
I don't know.
wonderful
I'm
city.
just saying. I'm sure there's people, you know,
Out there, weird people.
But I am excited. I know Sean is excited. We're
I'm
going to
excited.
film
There's
all
a
over
pub
the
under the
places.
bridge. There's a pub under the bridge I want to go to.
So,
I'm
but
excited
fun
about it.
fact, by the way, I don't know if so it wasn't last year's InfoSec, but I think it was 2 years ago's InfoSec when, as I said, I was over that side of the pond. We were looking for somewhere to stay, and there is a hotel boat out front of the Excel, where I believe the event is on. It's on the left-hand side. I can't remember what it was called. But we stayed in the hotel boat just outside of the Excel for the event.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's a big, gaudy looking.
Also restaurants, I believe.
Also
right?
restaurant,
Yeah.
and if you happen to stay in it, now I'm going to be very careful about how to describe it here, but it's basically mostly gold on the inside.
Wow, shiny.
Look, I don't want to put too fine a point in it, but it's what I would imagine Donald Trump's toilet would look like. It's gold everywhere. I mean, the shower gel, and this is not a joke, this is not an exaggeration, this is true. The shower gel was gold.
Wow.
In the boat hotel.
Wow.
So it's probably a bit late for anybody now if they did want to stay in the boat hotel. I would imagine it's well booked up, but if you do get a chance to do it in the future, it is a experience.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm holding my tongue for some of the words you're using here. Well, I'll wait for the recording to finish.
Okay. You do. Let me wrap the recording and then we keep talking. So, either you're staying in a gold covered hotel or you're just gonna be in a regular place like me, probably. It's always exciting to be there. There's a great community. I think we are expecting 14,000 people to come to the Excel. You can get lost. There is a lot going on there, but you'll find where InfoSecurity Europe is. We will be there. We'll be covering. We'll be talking to keynotes and speakers, and of course, we'll be talking to the ThreatLocker team on location. The booth is D90. See, I already memorized that. I'm going to tell the guy, Mantas, that he has the best second beard.
No, second best beard.
Second best beard.
Second best beard, Marco.
Yeah.
All right.
If he has a second beard, that's a
second beard.
Something.
It has two beards. One on one side, one on the other. All right, you guys, I'm going to close this because
it's getting too silly. It's getting too silly. D90, we'll see everybody in London. Excited to see the ThreatLocker team. Appreciate you guys joining us for this and being part of our coverage.
All right. See you there.
My friends.
Rob, thank you so much.
Safe travels.